let me introduce my colleague, Philippe Duval, and myself, Thomas Langlois. We are both part of cloud architecture, cloud and software. And we are also part of the tech squad, cloud and software automation. So let's go in the agenda. So there are 3 parts in this session. So the first one is about the efficiency. So how CLI, so command line interface, can help you to be more efficient. The second part is how CLI is a good idea for the planet. So in order to reduce your carbon footprint. And how to pimp your terminal in order to have a good and beautiful terminal. So let's begin with efficiency with Philippe.
Thank you. So first thing first, let's dive into efficiency from a scientific point of view. Yeah, I know. We are talking CLI and we are going to see some science papers, but stay with me on this. Just a quick disclaimer, I will skim through some scientific papers. Of course, they need some context, and of course, I'm going out of the context, so maybe you can take everything that I will say with a big pinch of salt. But the idea here is to show you that there are studies and serious studies around this topic, and there are scientific facts to back some of our reflections. The first scientific paper that we can find goes back in 1989. It was by Apple back then, and it basically says that each and every one of you thinks he's faster using the keyboard. But in fact, each and every one of you is slower using the keyboard and faster using the mouse. But there is a twist here. This was to support the sale of Macintosh. Okay? Back in the days, Apple wanted to sell mouse. So they built a study that showed that the mouse was faster. But they consider that finding something on the keyboard is a high-order cognitive function, while mouse is a low-order cognitive function. Basically, it's hard to remember what is the keystroke. It's easy to find the mouse on the desktop. I object to that because of the principle of least astonishment. Basically, it says that if you expect to find the same shortcut on each and every application, you learn it, and it becomes a low-level cognitive engagement. Of course, this doesn't apply to Emacs. Sorry for the Emacs fanboys here. It doesn't apply neither for VI. But, for example, Ctrl+P, which was in the Apple study, was at first for plain, meaning bold, meaning not print, at least. But since this time, each and every application uses Ctrl+P for print. So now you expect to find it, and it's easy to remember. So low cognitive functions. This study begins to be quite more interesting. It basically says that you learn far more from keystrokes than for anything else. This is a study that asked people to repeat the same set of actions 3 times using toolbar, mouse-driven menu, and keyboard-driven menu. The curve here, this one, shows the learning effect on the keyboard-driven menu. That's where you learn the most, meaning that in the end, you are quite on par using the mouse or the keyboard as the most effective solution. So basically, Apple didn't acknowledge that, but you learn a lot using the keyboard, and it gives you the same advantages as the mouse. And finally, the last one, it's a study on Word that you all use on a day-to-day basis that says that even the most proficient users of Word don't use the keystrokes. But when measured, they are faster on the keyboard than on the mouse. So basically, if you are using Word on a day-to-day basis, you would be more efficient if you used it using the keyboard than using the mouse. All in all, to sum up the scientific facts, keystrokes are faster than GUI in the long run. So as soon as you use a lot the keyboard or a lot of an application, you are faster using the keyboard than the mouse. This leads us to this shortcut. That's where we are going a little off the road with the scientific facts. We assume that GUI is basically faster for discovery. So when you discover the first time an application, you will be easier on the GUI using the mouse. But as soon as you do a lot of things, you will be far more efficient using keyboard. And if you use keyboard, why not use CLI tools and the terminal? So you will be faster using CLI. And the last one is that you are not using keyboard enough. And so that's precisely why we are here.
So let's continue with experimentation. So what does operation say? If we go back from decade, sysadmin or operation use terminal in order to connect to server, to administrate server, and do a lot of stuff. And basically, they need to do that because they don't have a desktop environment installed on all server. So they need to learn a terminal. Another good use case is when you need to reach a server which is behind 3, 4 firewall, gateway, and multiple jump, it's convenient to minimize the network bandwidth and to use terminal because basically terminal only send keystrokes, so it's very efficient. Another very important thing is a lot of recent tools like Kubernetes don't come by default with web UI. So for example, if you want to use Kubernetes and manage object inside Kubernetes, you need to master command line. After that, CLI is nowadays everywhere. So you have, of course, CLI for AWS, GCP, Microsoft Azure, but also for Scaleway, Alibaba, DigitalOcean, but also on the development spectrum for example, GitHub, GitLab, and moreover, even Windows provide Windows sub-Linux version 1 or version 2 in Windows in order to power command line inside Windows. So mainly Linux command line. And even ServiceNow provide a command line, so you don't have any excuse. So how command line can increase productivity? I take two examples. The first one is about auto-suggestion. So basically, if you take a new shell, we'll saw that in the last part of the presentation, but the shell provides you the example of the last command you use with this first letter. So basically, it helps you to remember all the commands. After that, this is very common, but when you manipulate Git object, you often need to switch from branch, main, for example, to develop, or I don't know why. And with a recent terminal, you have an auto selection, and it auto detects the Git branch and propose you to choose the correct one. Yes. Let's continue with GitLab. If we go back to the specter of the developer, sometimes you need to create issue. You can do that, of course, with your browser. Open free page, choose the correct project, go to the issue, list the issue, create a new issue, and so on. But you can also do that with the GLab command line. Basically, you just need to go to the correct directory with the Git repository and just type GitLab issue, create the title. It opens your favorite editor, and after that, you generate the issue. It's, of course, more efficient, and it's better. If we continue with the efficiency, of course, command line is the perfect tool when you need to automate something. For example, if you need to repeat the same action every day, every hour, or if you need to automate a bunch of things each night, it's very complicated to automate a click Of course, you have good tools like Selenium, AutoKey or things like that, but it's very easy to copy, paste text and to execute it as a frequency unit. Last point, you have a lot of way to use keyboard. For example, you can use keyboard with tiling Windows Manager, like E3, Prism, Sway, things like that, in order to switch your Windows to another screen or thing like that. You can use keyboard inside your browser in order to navigate without the mouse. You can also use terminal multiplexer like Tmux, Zelig, and so on. And GitHub provide, when you are logged in GitHub, when you press Ctrl plus K, you can create new GIST, new repository, new organization, and so on. So it's very recent. But the real question, like Philippe mentioned, it's when you discover something, Web UI is perfect, but when you are an advanced user on something, you need to give a try to command line in order to improve your efficiency. So what is efficient for your day-to-day job? It's not a good idea to use command line for everything. Choose it properly. So,
yeah. Now we have proven that we are more efficient using CLI. Let's dive into some green IT facts, because green IT is one of the buzzwords that we have to cross for this session. So again, some plain scientific facts. I'm not going off-road here. These are plain figures that come from Oxford. Your laptop costs around 700 CO2 equivalent per year, okay? On a 4-year renewal policy. I mean by that, if you keep your laptop 4 years, every year it costs 700 CO2 equivalent. 85% of that is manufacturing, meaning it leaves 15% for electricity. If you keep your laptop 8 years instead of 4 years, you halve this amount, logically. So you are down to 300 CO2 equivalent per year. And then, just to say that your new laptop isn't green, but the more you keep it, the greener it becomes. So your old laptop that lies under your bed for some reason is greener than your new fancy laptop. But my newer laptop uses less energy. That's at least what they told us. Again, some scientific facts. To my great questioning, laptop power consumption over 10 years is roughly constant, meaning that we didn't win anything regarding electricity consumption on the last 10 years, despite all the progress we've made on the manufacturing and the different parts. CPU accounts for less than 20% of the total consumption of 15%. So even Moore's law doesn't help that much here. And finally, you can argue that OLED uses far less energy, but it costs more to manufacture. And in fact, OLED is so little, there is so much still LCD on the market that it's not even relevant as of today. And all in all, energy consumption accounts for only 15% of CO2. So basically, keep your laptop. Why do you need this new laptop in the end? In fact, if you go quickly through the evolution of web pages, they roughly more than doubled in the course of 10 years. The easiest website, given these figures that are from 2023, is gficat.com. So basically, in the last 30 years, what we have done better and better and better is watching GIFs of cats. Okay, that's not the best use of technology, I think. So we maybe keep your older laptop to make real use. Let's get to some real uses. Okay, IntelliJ IDEA. memory requirements over the course of 10 years. In 2013, it was 1 gigabyte of RAM minimum. In 2023, it's 8 gigabytes of RAM. Of course, we all know that there are a lot of new tools in IDE, but do you use them? Not sure. In the meantime, NeoVim, that you can see here, and which runs into a terminal, still runs on your 1 gigabyte laptop. So you can still develop in a fancy IDE, provided you use the terminal. Everything comes from these kind of tools that basically don't care about the efficiency, the power efficiency. It's easy to develop in Electron, but it comes with a lot of RAM consumption. And it doesn't end there. As we will see, there are more to say about RAM consumption.
So let's continue with example. So I take the OpenShift web UI, which is used internally, and basically the server size don't consume a lot of memory and CPU. It's about 500 megabytes of memory, something like that, for 2 instances. But when you reach it with your browser consumes 1 gigabyte only after the login. So basically, I read the page, I log in, and I wait during 1 minute. And my Firefox use 1 gigabyte of memory. He download 300 megabytes of data, and he do 300 requests under the hood. I don't know why, but maybe to generate a fancy dashboard or catch new data. But the main information in this slide is nowadays web page do a lot of things quietly without our control. If I continue with the idea of Philippe, if we take PowerPoint 10 years ago, it consumed very low memory and CPU. Nowadays, it's 4 gigabytes of RAM for PowerPoint in order to launch it for the minimal requirements. It's why we decide to create this slide with Markdown. So basically, you just need a notepad, nothing more, and to use a small JavaScript plugin. So you can launch it with your navigator browser, and it don't consume 1 gigabyte of RAM. So for the Green IT buzzword, it's done. Let's go to the next one. So how to pimp your terminal? We can saw an old terminal, so a VT100. Okay, it's perfect. It's sometimes difficult to use. A shortcut is complex. But now the terminal seems to be like that. So you have a lot of color. You have a lot of information. How to obtain that? First, you need to drop your old shell, so your bash or your shell, because they are a good one, but they miss a lot of interesting features. So you need to switch to Z shell, for example, or to fish. And this next generation shell comes with a lot of interesting features. And for information, Z shell is now the new default for macOS. After that, you switch from your shell. You need to install a new font. The Nerd font is very common because basically it's a font with a lot of icon. So Git icon, icon for Java, for a lot of things. After that, you need to customize your prompt. So your prompt is the character before your command when you type something. And the idea is to use dynamic prompt in order to auto-detect in which branch you work, in which workspace, Google workspace you are working, and things like that, in order to say, oh, I don't want to delete a virtual machine because I am in the production workspace and not on the development workspace, and I can see that in my terminal. Of course, you can enable a lot of plugins, ZSH plugin, for example, if you use OhmyZSH or things like that. So let's continue with a lot of interesting tools which can improve your quality of life inside the terminal. So the first one is BAT. Clearly, drop your cat. It's not useful. Use BAT. It provides color. It provides line number. It auto-detects a language. So it's very interesting. You can replace grep with regrep. You have far more options, you have far more possibilities, so it's better. One of my preferred tools is Zoxid. You can use it to easily change directory, and you remember all your directory, and you can say, okay, I press Z, and by three first letter of my directory, you remember it, and you can switch from directory very easily. You can use FD, just, XR, TLDR, in order to have main page with a more easily way to understand. You have FZF, you have a lot of fabulous tools, but we cannot list all here. If we continue for the buzzword, of course, you can use AI inside a terminal. So we have a lot of a command line tool in order to request ChatGPT. So it's one. So you can use it from your shell. Of course, you need to provide the token somewhere. And you ask a question to ChatGPT and it answers. So for the ChatGPT, it's done. Let's go with a more interesting example. So if we continue with gcloud, so the GCP command line in order to manipulate Google Cloud, it provides an interactive mode, and we can so I tap a command, I tap another command, it provides all the choice with documentation, option, and so on. And I can do that for every command. And with a such tool, it's easy to create, for example, new VM. In this example, I will create one VM with a specific machine type. And I don't have to remember every command, every option. It's boring. You have everything available easily. I'll leave the floor to Philippe.
So, some key takeaways from that. First one, you have seen that keyboard is faster than mouse, and that you should use it more. Scientific facts. Second one, all laptops are green. CLI tools keep your old laptop usable. So maybe here you can spare some money and some CO2 by using your old laptop with a terminal. And finally, CLI doesn't have to be that ugly nor old school. You have clearly a lot of tools that are really fancy and that brings a lot of usability to the terminal. So don't remember Bash, remember Z shell, which is far more usable. But I think you come here for a reason, and that's how the hell I quit VI. And in fact, it depends. It depends whether you want to just escape, leaving everything untouched, and then it's this one. If you want to save before exiting, this one, but not if you want to just save if you change something, then it's this one. In the end, if you want to kill it and sabotage it as an insider, you can even do that. But my favorite one is, as I use Windows, to kill my terminal and start again. So I'm sure. Anyway, just one more thing. More serious, this one. Remember COP21? That's the guys who basically said that if we want to stay on track with climate change, we have to stay under 2 tons of CO2 equivalent per person and per year. Okay? Who amongst you owns a personal laptop, being a gaming laptop or whatever, on top of their professional laptop? I do. Who? Wow, okay. Gets bad. Didn't expect as much people at that. This means that basically, if we allow bring your own device, using our devices to code here for online, we can cut these requirements per developer down from 1/4 or 1 to 1/3, depending on your own laptop. If you have a gaming laptop, you are at least at 1/3, meaning that it's a quick and easy way to check the CSR requirements. Thank you very much, and I think